the dark, I play my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Creating the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. That's in love in everything. Bring a change, making it last. Join the permaculture.
Welcome to episode 392 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. The only pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and practical living.
Permaculture, P-I-M-P, with soulful grace. In a VIP cast where we find our place.
Oh, good to be here with y'all today, or tonight, however you choose to look at it. This episode, as always, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp.
Bam! As your standard, y'all, they're running a special right now, especially for the new people out there. Food for Health 15. That's for new customers. Anything over $100, they will get you squared away. Look, you can go ahead and go to the Sam's Clubs and get your preparedness items that way. But I'm telling you right now that when things jump off, you notice I said when things jump off, you're going to want some of the highest nutrient density you can find, and you ain't going to find it in a lot of those other places out there. But hey, beggars can't be choosers. You do what you have to, but that's where I'm going. So yeah, new customers over $100.
Well, think of it this way too. Is like the food that you get from Sam's is going to cause issues down the road, whereas the food that you get from Azure won't. Like the food you get from Sam's is laden with all kinds of like chemicals, toxins, biocides. I mean, how much of that food comes with a cancer warning now? A lot of it does.
Yeah, speaking of that, hey son, you said a word that we can't say, but I'll come to that here in a minute. I want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up. Tell everybody we're live so they can go ahead and do what they've been doing. And folks, that's going to bring me to the first thing I got to bring up today. I think from here on out, I was rushing to get into the studio on time, so sorry if I'm a little bit tardy, but I think we're going to have to start doing this podcast either on Rumble or Rumble along with our Pimpcast channel here on YouTube. And the reason why, folks, I'm sure you're going to all realize this isn't some coincidence, but every single time we go live or anytime I do a short, they immediately, I mean, this is, you could tell this is beyond accident. They immediately scrub 10 to 20 people from the subscribers every single time.
Wow.
Every single time we go live. And it, like I did one yesterday with Dr. Franson. So this is probably going to be the last one on my channel. And if William chooses, I guess on his as well. I don't know if you,
I think I've figured out what the issue is on my channel right now. For that last strike that I got, there's like this review, like what's it called? Like this curriculum you have to take afterwards. And I thought it was like a video. Anyways, I haven't taken that curriculum, and I think they're kind of like penalizing me for it because every time I get on YouTube Studio, which is like the back end of YouTube, if you create any content on there, it gives me this like notification, hey, you need to take this community violation quiz. Basically, I thought it was going to be a video, but it's actually like a multi-choice test.
So they're treating you like you're two.
Yeah.
Wow. How about that? So yeah, y'all, it's getting to the point of frustration here that I don't know how it's coming across, because I am trying to be extremely cautious about my words to the point of annoyance that I don't even think I'm communicating well anymore. That's how bad it's starting to get. I mean, nobody's talking about it, and everybody was thinking, oh, Trump's in here now. Oh, happy days are here. Going. Well, folks, I've been at this for a while, and I'm here to tell you it's worse now in these platforms than it ever has been. X will not even allow me to go live over there. That's how bad it's gotten. They took away my blue check mark for a while. Maybe they gave it back. I don't know. But it's getting crazy. So, folks, what does that tell you? It tells you that when you're clamping down on, and it's happening to a whole lot of people in the homestead space, but when you see it happening like this, it should also be a shot across the bow telling you that you might want to stay alert, stay alive, if you know what I'm talking about, because this stuff is just getting crazier. My front porch talks, they used to be quite popular, and now all of a sudden they tank all of those things. So anybody that's out there telling it like it is, or, saying the truth that isn't sold out, and trust me, y'all, we got the establishment, then you got the not so obvious establishment, as Dr. Shiva calls it. And there's a lot of these people out there that are so-called, what do you call them? Influencers. I hate that title. But yeah, people that are so-called influencers that are just bought and paid for by special interests, and they're doing the work of the minions out there. So just keep that in mind. So anyway, I saw somebody, I think it was Deborah, in the chat here a little bit ago. Look, we will be doing the podcast, so it'll be in the audio format. It'll be on Rumble, and it'll be on the Pimpcast channel, because it's just what they're doing here. It's like I can get on here and sing Mary Had a Little Lamb. I promise you, after I'm done with this show, I mean, I think the channel had, I don't keep up with the numbers. I never really look at those types of things, but it was 173,000. I looked, and it was 173,300, and they got us down. We may be down to 172,000 at this point. So
Wow.
that's how many people they unsubscribe. And you're telling me no matter what I say, every single time they scrub off, every single time, son, 10, anywhere between 10 to 20 and sometimes 30, no matter what I say.
Yeah.
That seems a little bit unusual, but even though the metrics on these videos are through the roof. So explain that one. Yeah, so all the metrics that you're trying to hit, if you're worried about that sort of thing, we hit them all. And yeah, so they say, you know what? These guys are saying too much truth out there, but well, tonight's not going to be any different. And if they scrub us off of anything, well, they'll get us on the other channel, and they can't fool with Rumble, at least for now. Bongino is part owner of Rumble, so I mean, he's on his way out. So who knows what that slime bought? And by the way, folks, I'm expecting my apology from y'all out there, son. How many podcasts were we in before I said Bongino was the biggest? I called him a bald-headed zipper worm right here on this podcast. How many podcasts were we in before I said Bongino was pure scum, long before he was brought into this so-called administration?
I mean, you've been saying that since he got a platform, since before we were doing the Pimpcast. I think you've been saying that. I think you've been saying that for.
And all the breadcrumbs were right there. I mean, all the truth was out there. You could tell this guy was going to be a complete scumbag. And I would listen to his program from time to time. Remember, you want to listen to your enemies. I would listen to this guy, and I would hear, I'm like, hold on a minute. Okay, so he made all these wolf tickets about what he was going to do when if he got into this administration, and what they ought to be doing. Well, he was in that number 2 spot over at the FBI, and there's a big goose egg over there. So anyway, the sycophants, the Trump sycophants, they're just going to say, oh, he did a wonderful job. Name one thing he did. So I guess Kumar is over there by himself right now. So Harold and Kumar split up at the FBI. So yeah. Anyway.
So real quick, remember, guys, if you are looking for the podcast, if you can't find it anywhere on these video platforms, you can always find it on your podcast player, on all of them. So we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on any of the other ones you may or may not use. We're on all the audio platforms, so you'll always be able to find us there if you can't find us in the video format.
Yeah, Nancy just pointed out, she said, I switched to Patreon. Thank you very much for that. I'm also putting my front porch talks, I'm putting those on Patreon as well. Somebody had asked for us to do that, and seems like a wise thing to do, but hey, Patreon's not safe either because it's linked to YouTube. Ask Doug Hagman about that, the guy who had the Hagman report. They scrubbed his Patreon, stole all the money, and these people got ripped off, and nothing ever happened for it. So, yeah, these platforms are getting crazy.
One thing that's changed on Patreon since he got scrubbed off Patreon is that now you can, before you had to upload videos directly to YouTube and then send that link to Patreon. Now what you can do is upload directly to Patreon. So that's, I don't know what their censorship is going to be like, but at least you can upload. It's not tied to YouTube as far as the uploads go.
Well, they scrubbed his Patreon account, and with the videos and stuff on there, and it's not like the guy's saying anywhere near the incendiary. Well, what I'm saying is not incendiary, but it could be seen that way. Well, maybe it is, I guess, depending on where you are. And then speaking of getting scrubbed off, my man had him on this show from Cultivate Elevate. He got us a 2-week ban because he brought up a seed. Well, they just scrubbed his channel right off of YouTube recently.
Dang.
And what was he talking about? Ways in which you can rejuvenate your body. It wasn't like he was putting out a bunch of garbage or anything or calling anybody out, calling for violence. They just scrubbed his channel, and it was a very popular channel. So, yeah, the walls are caving in for all the influencers out there. So you better believe that digital dollar is not far away because it's happening all across Europe, and it's going to happen here. And this is how it starts, y'all. This is why I was talking about, this is why in the last program, we spent so much time talking about 5G warfare. This is how it's done. When I say I'm talking 5th generation warfare, not where it's just soldiers kicking in the door or something like that. But it's how they hit you from every single direction, from the air, the water, the food, the information. And they're trying as best they can to keep everybody on the same plantation. Well, and for those of us that are just not going to play along, well, there's going to be consequences for that. So if you can't find us, go try us out on Patreon, or like I said, Patreon for now. And, some of the other platforms as well. We'll do the best we can. And like I said, X, ever since I had Dr. Will on there talking about what was happening by the river that we have proof for, they have never let me go live over there. So, yeah, it's not what they say it is, folks. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to spend so much time on that. But anyway, so I'll get to the farm news. Soil Saviors, I just mixed up a batch of that because the weather is unseasonably warm. So I'll put some out there in the high tonal, which, by the way, I'm still getting lettuce out of it every day, and some of the other greens I eat. Try to eat from the farm every single day. So I got Soil Saviors out there. Put some in all the compost. Remember, folks, water your compost. You don't want it to dry out. That is, son, what are some of the reasons why? And by the way, before I move on, was it Brenda?
Yep.
I can't see it. Brenda? Yeah,
Yep.
Thanks for the $5 out there.
Thank you.
Little channel support. Thank you very much. That's more than YouTube pays. I guarantee it. Yeah. So anyway, what's the reason why everybody wants to make sure their compost stays moist?
Well, you don't want your organisms drying out. If you think of your organisms similar to like human bodies or animal bodies, it's mostly water. And if you let your compost dry out, they're going to either die or they're going to go into a dormant state and then not be really beneficial to anything. So you want to maintain that moisture, and you keep in mind you can overdo the moisture as well. So keep, like, the secret, I guess, trick is to get a handful of compost, squeeze it together, and you want one drop to form and fall from that pile that you squeezed together. So that's the perfect 50% ratio or 50% moisture content. That's what you want to shoot for. If it's too wet, it's going to go anaerobic, and then you're going to get the bad guys coming in. And if it's too dry, everything is going to either die or go dormant. Now, in your vermicompost, it's going to be wetter. So, it's not going to be, you're going to have it a little bit wetter than that. Some say even up to 70%, depending on whom you ask. So just keep that in mind. All right. So other things going on around here, trying to get back into a serious meditation practice, because even in Psalm 1, it says, his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And so I'm trying to do the best I can to get back into a good meditation practice. Maybe not in the ways that everybody else does, but I'm seeing a lot of overlap with. It's funny that a lot of these people that are teaching these meditation classes and stuff like that, I don't have a problem with a lot of these folks. I really don't. I prefer not to do it in a secular kind of sense. I'm trying to get myself back into this sort of meditative practice where I spend more time in the Word. And I told y'all, one of my hacks throughout the day is I drink 1.5 gallons of water every day. And every single time I take a drink of water, I make sure I get on my knees and I pray. It is kind of hard to be an unrepentant sinner in the worst kind of way when your prayer life is in order. So that's one of the things I'm trying to make sure. It wasn't that I wasn't doing it before. It was that it was starting to become a little bit lukewarm. So I'm getting back into that practice in a more full-fledged fashion. Not to say also that you can't meditate on some other things like, hey, man, let's say you get a problem with bad thoughts coming into your head. Well, there's a way to retrain your body when you become aware of the thoughts that are coming in your head, how you can undo it and redirect it into something that's positive.
So there's a bunch of different ways of going about that. That's another thing I'm working on as well. Also giving some serious thought about acquiring another trade. And I'm already a journeyman electrician, I'm a journeyman butcher. I'm a farmer. I wear a lot of hats, do a lot of different things. But it's been occurring to me, especially with the advent of AI being what it is, that maybe it wouldn't hurt to have another feather in my cap, especially with the garbage that they're doing right here on YouTube. And it's going to be in all the other platforms. So folks, I am not kidding you. If you're a person that is critical of anybody in power, your days on this channel on YouTube period are probably going to be short-lived. And honestly, with the advent of AI and the way it's, doctors are going to be pushed out long before carpenters, HVAC, or electricians. I guarantee that. So it's making me think, okay, man, what are some trades out there that I'd really like to know? I'd love to know them all. But I'm thinking, well, what's one that builds onto the trade that I currently have? And I was thinking HVAC, man. I was thinking I might just go ahead and go back and get my HVAC certificate. For a whole variety of reasons. Maybe I'll talk about that in the future, but it was always something that interested me. And I was actually signed up at the local Voc Tech down here to do it right when COVID kicked off.
Yeah.
And then they told me, actually, I was already set up, ready to go to class, the whole 9 yards. And they told me, hey, you're going to have to wear a mask in here training. I'm like, nah, I got an exemption, Jack. I pulled one from my chiropractor out of my pocket. And they're like, no, we can't have any exceptions. And I'm like, well, I guess you don't want my money. So I walked out. That's the end of that. But I'm thinking about going back. Whole lot of people during that whole thing, I hope, are asking some serious questions and hopefully have gained a little bit of discernment. In fact, that's what my front porch talk, I think, is going to be about this next Sunday, is about discernment. And shoot, it's like that. I can't think of his name right now, but he was an English Bible teacher, and Charles Spurgeon. He said, discernment isn't a matter of knowing what's right and wrong. It's a matter of knowing the difference between what's right and what's almost right. And so hopefully people have gained a little bit of that much needed discernment throughout all of this. But based on the evidence I've seen so far, I'm not hopeful. So especially not around here. Yeah. Let's see some other things. Got out here weed eating silver grass. I won't keep this too much longer. And doing more conscious breathing, folks. Look, I'm trying to throw a little bit of everything. I'm telling you exactly what I'm doing here. Okay. For my 56th birthday, I want to try, Lord willing, to be in the best shape I can possibly be in. And, with that Sovereign Health Summit, man, I want to make sure I'm ripped up from the feet up, and I'm already kind of there. It's just some fine points. It's not for aesthetic reasons. All I want to do is just make sure I feel great. That's the bottom line there. But part of that is some of the other training that I've learned from Wim Hof initially, and then other guys out there like Erwin LaCour. And his is a totally different breathing method, but I'm doing more conscious breathing where I'm slowing down my breathing. Even when I'm under stress, I'm slowing. When I say stress, I mean, like, let's say carrying a bale of hay. Even when I'm under stress, I'm controlling my breathing. Not when I say slow it down, it's slower and deeper and longer. So it's extenuated breaths. You might be able to find some of that online, but I paid for his course, and static breath holds, things like that. So I'm working on that, trying to do it even more. If you ever feel a little bit stressed out, folks, these are some of the things that can honestly get you straightened out. So, and then, also the diet, man, I'm eating as locally as I can. I expected myself. I mean, if it's not growing here, I ain't eating it. That's kind of how I'm rolling these days. Okay. So that means I don't know what you call this diet, but in the morning I eat protein, fat, and whatever carbs I'm going to have for the day, I do it in the morning, usually sweet potatoes, because I still got some left over, some purple, orange, plus those anthocyanins, they're in there. So I have that, fermented vegetables at every meal. And then if I eat lunch, these days I got to kind of make myself eat, which is strange. Anyway, for lunch, I'm having mostly protein, fat, and then whatever carbs I have are coming in the form of fermented vegetables, and at dinner I eat nothing but just straight protein. So I don't know what that diet is, but
Local
yeah.
diet.
Yeah, I guess you can call it a local diet. So, anyway, that's how we're rolling. But anyway, one last thing before I pass it off here, man. We got to pray for these folks out in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. They are absolutely being decimated right now, and nobody in the prostitute media is talking about it. And I mean nobody. Had a guy named Michael reach out to me, and he's out there in I hope I'm going to get this right because I'm not actually looking at his email right now, but he emailed me from out there, and apparently, and I want to say that he was in Montana. Sorry, Michael, if I got it wrong. No, I think he was in Washington. He said, check this out, son. Right after the storms came through, we got wind gusts that rival a freaking tornado out there. Not gusts, but I mean like sustained winds, like hurricane winds going on out there, like F2 hurricane or whatever they call them, the category 2 hurricane winds going on out there. And these people are being decimated up one side and down the other. He said, lo and behold, had an offer on his property not long soon after. How about that?
Larry in the comments just said, I'm in Oregon and it's just starting. I told everyone to get prepared and got chuckles.
Man, it's crazy. So it looks like Oregon, Montana, Idaho, and I'll bet money it's happening to all the patriot communities out there, because if people think of Washington and Oregon and they think about the eastern or the western side of those places, they think about the big cities, not realizing there's a lot of good old boys just like us out there.
It gets rural real quick leaving those cities.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, but the cities are calling the shots for those states. Meanwhile, there's some old boys out there that, their motto is just like ours, man. Don't start no SH and there won't be no IT. So, anyway, prayers for those people out there, because there's a reason why the mainstream prostitute media isn't talking about any of this stuff, folks. It's nuts, and it's getting crazier. And I'm just they even shut down anybody who's even talking about it on Twitter. So once again, your buddy Elon Musk, folks, he's not your buddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So son, that'll do it for me. Let me kick it on over to you while I drink some of this hydrogen water.
Yeah, so just got done, actually just right before this podcast, just got done finishing up all the processing of those, was it 5 sheep, 4 goats, something like that. Yeah, we have a ton of lamb and a ton of goat meat now. I'm excited about that. Last night, tried to go deer hunting, didn't really find anything. And then, yesterday morning, sorry. And then this morning, tried to go deer hunting and didn't really see anything either. I swear, these deer know when it's hunting season.
They know. They absolutely know.
Where they know. Yeah, they know when it's hunting season, because the rest of the year, I'll have deer show up to the same doggone spot every single day. And then hunting season happens, and now they've just decided to switch routines. So there's that. But a little word of advice for anybody who is going to be processing a lot of animals or going to be standing at a table for a long time. Lift the table up. Get it higher up. So where you're, like, if you're standing upright and your arms are at a 90-degree angle, that's where you want your arms resting at a 90-degree angle on the table. And that is the perfect working height for you. If it's too low, you're going to be killing your back. And yeah, everybody's just exhausted from processing hunched over and all that type of stuff. So yeah, if you're going to be processing anything or doing any kind of work at a standing table for an extended period of time, adjust it and make it ergonomic for you, and then you'll be good to go.
Well, to that point, let me just say something about that. Jason from Sow the Land has a little, like when he was using those folding tables back in the day, now he uses sawhorses and, butchers, like regular butcher block now, which is cool because you can use a cleaver on that sort of thing. But yeah, what Jason would do was extend the legs just by putting pieces of conduit, I think, on the ends of it. And he would extend it up because, like you said, man, you want to kill your back completely. Be working at one of those folding tables like I use. I mean, I can do it for a short period, but like William said, man, if you're going to be doing it for a while, he just made some or just cut off some pieces of conduit, put the legs up on it and raised it up about 4 or 5 inches.
My goal is to build some sort of end grain butcher block, like workbench for processing in the future. So that way the end grain, it'll, like if you use a cleaver, if you do any cuts or anything like that, it's going to self-heal. And and then at the right height, you can use a cleaver on it, all that type of stuff. That's what I want to get into before I process next. Because those folding tables, they're handy in a pinch, especially if you're doing it in areas that you don't usually process. But man, it gets old fast on your back. But yeah, that's what we've been doing kind of nonstop since we got back from Kansas. So yeah, but a lot of peace of mind knowing that the meat is in the freezer. We got lamb, we got goat. Yeah, a lot of peace of mind.
Now that you're a dad, now you know exactly why your mom would sit there and wonder, why are you standing in front of that freezer? I'm like, man, you have no idea the peace of mind I have just by looking. Maybe this is a guy thing, but man, there ain't nothing more satisfying than an entire freezer full of meat.
So the baby was actually kind of in her way helping me earlier. I was packaging up some of the grind and stuff like that, and she's over here just watching. She's handing me, as I'm wrapping it in butcher paper, she's handing me the plastic wrap meat and all that type of stuff. She's trying to put her fingers through the plastic wrap too. But yeah, it was fun to have everybody around just putting meat in the freezer. And it was cool that she's being desensitized to this at a young age too. She's never going to grow up wondering like, oh, does meat come from the grocery store or does it come from this animal that we're raising and whatnot? So that was a cool little moment earlier.
Well, I was sitting here, I was thinking about doing a video on, right now, man, there's so many people that I know that are suffering right now. I mean, in the worst kind of way. And I'm thinking, man, if people just were to produce all of their own meat, it would make all the difference. And I mean, just folks, I'm going to do a mental experiment, just popped into my head right now. Okay, so let's say you go out there and buy some sheep, and let's say you spend about $2,000 on those sheep. And let's say they're hair sheep. Okay, well, the robust sheep, they don't require a whole lot of outside inputs if you do it right, you move them right, and let's say you got good genetics. All right, so let's say you got one ram and you got 2 ewes. Okay, let's say they both produce twins. Well, it's not going to take long. I mean, these guys, their gestation period is only like 4.5 months. A breeding pair of sheep will outproduce cows by many magnitudes over and over and over and over again. Because if it's a grass-fed cow, grass-raised, grass-finished, you're looking at 28 months from the time it pops out to the time you're putting it in the freezer. And it's not going to be anywhere near the size of a regular, cow that they're breeding these days, these monsters they got out there. But it's going to be way more nutritious. But let's say that $2,000 investment, good night. Son, I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that I just gave away 2 sheep. Just gave away, T and Amber came over, we processed another one. And I'm sitting here thinking, whoa, man, you really add up the cost. I mean, if you were to buy this stuff, first of all, you ain't going to find hair sheep in that doggone Whole Foods anyway.
No.
This is far better quality than that stuff that they're bringing in from New Zealand. Plus, it's local. If they were charging for it, it would be insane. But honestly, I'm thinking about all the meat I got in this freezer, 8 of them, and it's all free if you do it right. And I was thinking about, man, how can I put an exclamation point on this? But it seems that people are still acquiescing from the homestead space. I mean, Trump's in there and everybody's still drinking this Kool-Aid. And I'm like, man, I mean, he just gave this speech last night. He lied about 80% of it. Easily provable lies. Folks, just keep in mind, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, it's not red state, it's not blue state, it's the state against you. And I've told you this 1,000 times probably. The bottom line is, if you want to save a pile of money out there, man, you better take up fishing. You better take up hunting. And there's a reason why these old boys hunt mostly out of season. I ain't saying you ought to, but if it comes down to it, man, I'll put meat in the freezer anyway.
We should do an episode on American conservation and how it is completely backwards.
It is.
We should do an episode on that sometime soon.
Yeah. So, man, there's some comments in here I wanted to get to. Oh yeah, Ken and Amy was saying that's a great idea. Put a can of corn under each leg. Just don't shake the table. Yeah, especially if it's one of them big number 10 cans. I bet that'd work pretty good. Yeah, that would be about the perfect size. It probably would.
They also just said, I don't drink Kool-Aid. I drink raw sheep milk. Yeah.
There you go. That's what I'm talking, man. But hey, I will say just a moment ago for dinner, I did have some cheese and it was some goat cheese, man. Usually I'm a fan of goat cheese, But man, this stuff was not very good, but I ate it anyway. Somebody gave it to me. Maybe that's why they gave it to me, because it wasn't very good.
Now, what kind of sheep do you guys have, Ken and Amy? What kind of sheep do you guys have? Because like it can be difficult to milk sheep, so I'm kind of curious what kind you have. Do you know, Dad?
I'm not sure. I thought they had wool sheep. I'm not sure. I know that
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what they got. Steve says our hair sheep have been trouble free. We have one set of twins and 2 singles. That's what I'm talking about. Folks, you put in that initial investment on these guys, and then you keep getting rid of the first ones you're going to eat are going to be the ones that ain't no good. Let's say you got a mom. Let's say she ain't a good mom. Okay, in the freezer, she's going to go. But let's say, okay, she had 2 of them. Well, there's a chance they may be no good, but you might have one good one out of there. There's chances you even have triplets. I mean, and that's not that uncommon out there for sheep. Short gestation period. I mean, they said they're wool sheep, son.
Yeah, I see that. And now Necro Kitty says, I have no idea how to hunt birds. Now, if I remember correct, you have the Affligab, where you can't eat like red meat and everything.
Alpha-gal,
So
yeah.
Affigal. So
Yeah.
check out Squab raising pigeons. Check that out. You want to talk about a hands-off approach to raising meat? Check out raising Squab and doing pigeons, because once you have the breeding pair, once they know where home is, they do the rest, and then they're young. The squab itself is actually going to be bigger than the parents, and you did nothing other than provide the home for the pigeons. You don't have to provide them feed. You can provide them water, but they'll usually sort that up themselves. But yeah, check that out. And then, I mean, I don't know what the gestation period is on pigeons or how quickly the turnover rate is, but just given the fact that it's no maintenance and it's free, there you go. Oh, wow. Pigeons are illegal for me. Only quail is legal where I live. So your pigeons identify as bald eagles, and they can't do anything about it.
Bam. That's another reason, she's one of the people that's dealing with the latest planned pestilence, which is this Alpha-gal, which nobody had ever heard of years ago. And now all of a sudden they are absolutely positively, folks, they're hitting us in 30 ways to Sunday here. I would talk about some of the possible treatments and some things that people are using, like apparently nicotine might be a good way of keeping some parasites off of you. Like, I got to be careful, y'all. This is exactly the problem of being in a platform like this, because there are some people that supposedly have treatments out there. I'd like to get them on the show, but you know how it is. I mean, shows like that are going to have to be exclusively on Rumble, because the people I have on here talking about solutions, like I said, they tank the show and they make sure that y'all don't hear about it. So we're just going to have to do it in other ways. All right. So with that said, y'all, let's go on to our next segment here, Sovereign Health Summit. That's going to be October 27th through the 31st. TPC will get you 5% off. We're going to have Barbara O'Neill out there blowing it up. Look, y'all, you can't trust anybody these days except for the people around you. And I'm not saying this to be, look, I'm just going to tell you straight, man. You can't trust the doctors. These MDs out there, the same people that told you to roll up your sleeve and take blah, 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 blah. Those same people, yeah. I'm going to listen to those? No. The people that have moved the needle in my life, the biggest, are going to be at the Sovereign Health Summit. Those are the ones that are going to be there. Barbara O'Neill being one of them. She's going to be speaking 5 days, several times a day. So you want to be there. Like I said, TPC will get you 5% off, and we even have it to where you can watch it virtually. So if you can't be there, love to see you there. But if you can't, you can watch it virtually in your own room. And, I think it's going to be awesome. Anyway, we're going to need some volunteers down there. I'm looking for some folks that are local. I'll be hitting up you and Amy, Ken, here before too long, and see if y'all want to, be a part of this thing. Anyway, EMF Rocks, 10% off with promo code PERMA. Had Dr. Franson on last night talking about, you got those bags there, son. How are they working out for you?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, I don't have like an RF meter or anything like that, but there's definitely a noticeable difference. And then you can also kind of tell when you need to send it out to go ground too.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're awesome. They're all over the house.
Well, I rotate them out now. I got them to where I take the ones that are on like the router or whatever. And of course I got that hat from Redemption Shield to put over your router. I got that on there with one of those underneath it. So I was asking Dr. Franson about that too. Yeah, that I'm doing everything I possibly can to mitigate this stuff. So I put one under that router and I change it out every day. So I take that thing, ground it out, replace it with another one, and then got 3 of them at the head of my bed. So anyway, EMF Rocks 10% off with promo code PERMA. All right. Well, we're kind of running long on the tooth here, and I lost one of my articles here, but the first one is, check this out. Okay, so this is kind of I swear I didn't plan it this way, but it just did. British Parliament rejects call to roll back Online Safety Act. Now, folks, the same thing they've done over there in Europe, and Dr. Jack Kruse just got back from a 2.5-month world cruise. And he was talking about all the different countries he couldn't get into because of this, what do you call it? The
digital
ID
stuff.
Yeah, the digital ID, that he couldn't even go into these countries. I mean, it's shocking the rate at which this is happening, and nobody in your mainstream prostitute media is talking about it. Well, right here, the British Parliament, they rejected. The people are over there losing their minds. Well, I wonder how much you can possibly lose your mind when you don't have a Second Amendment. But, you know, at the end of the day, man, they outnumber them. And the people are saying, look, man, we've had it. They went out there and in record time got 160,000 signatures saying, hey, you need to roll this thing back. They're putting people in prison because of posts that they made online. And folks, the British folks are probably some of the most, outside of Canadians, man, they're probably some of the most polite people you're ever going to meet on the planet. And they're not, and the things that they're locking these guys and gals up for is astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. Well, the people are saying, look, man, we've had enough of this. And I guess the reason I'm calling this good news is that there is pushback. It's happening, and it's happening in a big way. So I'm hoping, man, I'll be honest with y'all, man, I just don't have I don't have the most positive position in the world when it comes to the United States of amnesia. I mean, we just lost how many people because of some makeshift pestilence, and still nobody cares. Is it going to be that hard to sell? And by the way, it's going to be this administration, you know, the ones that everybody just seems to think, USA, USA, USA. It's going to be this. The panopticon is happening under this administration right now, and nobody's talking about it, and nobody cares. So, folks, this is why I'm saying you better get your house in order, because these things are not improving. Name one thing that's getting better. Oh, okay. So he took women out of men's sports and vice versa, or men out of women's sports. Okay. Whoop-de-doo. Yeah, that's kind of self-explanatory. What have you done for me lately? So far, folks, I'm just telling you, look, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. Just get your house in order, because it's about to get real. All right, here's another one. Well, I accidentally lost one of my articles here, y'all. So, yeah, anyway, I'm going to talk about this latest one, glyphosate. Now I want to be real. I got to be careful about how I say this. Now, this foundation study that was cited years ago, ghostwritten, of course, this Science and Glyphosate Regulatory Legacy article that, you know, has now been figured out it was a fraud, that basically Roundup, or Monsanto rather, basically wrote it up. They had a shell company that wrote this article up saying there's nothing wrong with glyphosate. Well, how many people are now suffering from the big C because of having dealt with this stuff day in, day out, and have no idea why they came down with the big C? Well, we now know that, you know, this is why they always hire, you know, a lot of these Mexicans to go under these power lines. I kid you not. And you can go, I've done it. And I had the picture on my phone, folks. I'm telling you, this is a true story. Chased down the guy that tried to jump over the fence on my property. My dog was going nuts, and he thought he was going to spray some glyphosate over here on this fence line. And I get over there. I chase him down. He's wearing a complete Tyvek suit. That's all he's got on. And he's got a respirator, which ain't good enough. I follow him. I jump in my truck, go down there, find the truck that he's trying to get to. I go find it, and I block him off right there in the middle of the road. I go up on that truck, and the tank in which these guys are filling up their pump sprayers skull and crossbones all over it, all over this thing. And then all these warnings about not to smell it, not to do this. I get up with my phone and I don't even know how many pictures. Took pictures of the truck because I'm calling the power company saying, look, don't ever come on this property ever again. Definitely don't be spraying that poison out here. And I kid you not, son, I jump in my truck, get back up to the house, and I looked at those pictures. I go back, I make the phone call to the local power company around here, and I'm asking this guy's, as he says, send me the pictures. I'm like, hold on, you're going to tell me you don't know they're doing this? I got the pictures. Well, send me the pictures. I go down and look for those pictures in my phone, and they're scrubbed. The pictures are gone from my phone, and they were there. I don't even know how many pictures. Every last one of them were gone. So anyway, I've said all that to say this. Look, they lied to you for how many years, and your government sanctioned this. They were okay with this. The FDA was absolutely okay with this. And now it comes out all these years later. Reminds me of a recent podcast that Gary Brecka did with his wife, talking about women. And honestly, every husband and wife, or guy with a girl, or vice versa, everybody needs to listen to this podcast. The latest one Gary Brecka did with his wife about women going into menopause, premenopause, and look, I'm a guy. I don't know what all that stuff means, but I know what the consequences feel like. So, from this end of it, and they're going to give you some strategies on how to deal with it. Well, one of the things they cover on there, son, and the reason why it's tangentially located to this story right here, is that for years and years and years and years, there was the same kind of study that told women that hormone replacement therapy would give them breast C, cancer of the breast. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and say it. Okay. So a lot of women were suffering needlessly when all of a sudden we come to find out, lo and behold, and this is relatively recent, that all of those studies were absolutely, I hate the word false. They were manufactured lies. I hate it when they say, well, our information was false. No, it was a lie. You can't church it up by saying it was false. It was a lie. They did the same thing with women's hormone replacement therapy. Now, I told your mom, I said, you know what? How many women are in an early grave because of that? And what I'm saying is some of these symptoms for these ladies can be so dreadful in dealing with some of this stuff that some of them might have committed suicide. I mean, I can't even, I'm almost certainly a fair number of them have. How many divorces are a result of it? Because neither the woman or the man, neither one of them knows what's going on. And they're told, well, you can't take this HRT. It's not good for you. It's going to give you, and it turns out every last one of those studies were lies. And then I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, how many marriages have fallen apart? How many kids are coming from broken homes? How many other things? All because they're sitting here lying to these women when they could have had some kind of healing. Now, I do find it curious that some of the older generation did not have to use this sort of thing to get by. And so it begs the question, like, why are they needing it now when years ago women didn't, when they would make this approach? Yeah, they get the hot flashes and all the other stuff. But why is it happening now? And it's believed, and I put that in quotes, that it might have a great deal to do with the fact that, you know what, we're being that 5th generation warfare, y'all, your water, your food, your air, all these different things. So there's a lot of women out there suffering needlessly, just like with this Roundup story, where they sit here, they lie about these results. They go out there and tell everybody in the mainstream media, everybody jumps on board, despite how many times they've lied to you. That's exactly why folks, as sure as I'm right here behind this microphone, everything they tell me to do, I promise you, I do the polar opposite. In everything they offer you, everything they tell me, they are, this is why I say they're pathological. They lie when the truth would even serve them better. So that's exactly why I take the stance I do. Son, anything to say about any of that?
Well, our entire environment surrounding us is just full of disruptors, like whether it be the plastic bottle that you drink water out of, or the sunglasses that you're wearing, or the perfumes, or the detergents, or everything around you in your entire environment, the formaldehyde in the carpets, everything around you is a hormone disruptor. So it's not surprising that you need some sort of therapy, especially once you start getting like older, just to help remediate some of the disrupted hormones. I mean, the only solution I can think of, and this isn't even a solution, is to go live out. And this isn't even a complete solution because they're still, dropping stuff from the sky. But it's just go in the middle of a national park and then just live in the middle of a forest, make your own clothes, grow all your own food, things like that, and then you get called a feral person later by later generations.
Yeah, it's happening everywhere, man. I was my friend Raul over at the Firmamental podcast. He sent me a text today, or he sent me a voicemail saying, "Yo, man, I grew up in Arizona, man." He said, we used to have about 300 days of sunshine a year. He's like, dude, this fog will not go away. It's just absolutely crazy. And I remember when we lived in Colorado, when you were born, Pueblo, Colorado, they would boast about the fact that they were like the sunniest city in America. So I went and checked lately. They would boast about that they have more than 300 days of sunshine a year. And Pete, you're right. Yeah, patient cured is a customer loss. Anyway, they changed it from 300 days a year of sun, or 300 and whatever it was, to now it's 250. So they're doing this on purpose, and that's why I think we're getting hit in every single direction you can possibly imagine. All right, folks. Man, yeah, I kind of ran a little bit long on that. Let's go to my man, Eric Sider.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip: history sure seems to repeat itself. I recently heard a spoken word poem by Gil Scott-Heron, and though it was written in the 70s, it could have been written yesterday. And I think it illustrates a pretty significant point, is that nothing we're going through is new. It's more or less the story of civilization. So long as we base our societies on exploitation and conflict, the cycle will continue. So the only way to get out of it is to build a new system based on sustainability, abundance, and wealth for all. And I don't know a better way to do it than permaculture design. I'm going to read this poem because I think it's a great example of the same old story. New boss, same as the old boss. Here we go. Whitey on the moon. A rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bills, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. The man just upped my rent last night because Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilets, no lights, but Whitey's on the moon. I wonder why he's upping me, because Whitey's on the moon? Well, I was already giving him $50 a week, and now Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up, and if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. With all that money I made last year for Whitey on the moon, how come I ain't got no money here? Whitey's on the moon. I just about had my fill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills, air mail special, to Whitey on the moon. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider. If you're in need of permaculture t-shirts, the official pimp gear of the Pimpcast, or remote permaculture consultation and design, head over to ericsider.com. Jeff Lawton's new podcast, Discover Permaculture, is now available on all podcast platforms. So get that in your ear holes.
Well, that's my dog right there. He threw me for a loop. We never listened to these, y'all, prior to the show. I mean, I'm listening to it along with you. Now I'm telling you, I will not get that out of my head because Whitey's on the moon.
Yeah, that's stuck.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first ever spoken word rap ever done on this program, done by Eric. How about that? Yeah. But no, I think the point is definitely made. I mean, we know the price of everything and the value of nothing. That's really, I've said it a million times, and that's exactly, yeah. And I'm right there with you, Steve. Whitey didn't go to the moon. No.
We should do an episode on that sometime, because I have a theory, and I know it's going to make some of you guys mad, but I have a theory about it. Where I think it might have been a possibility. Might have been a possibility. Now, there's a lot of caveats involved with all of that, but yeah, we should do an episode on it.
Well, I was thinking about having Raul. Well, I told Raul after the first of the year we'd have him back on the show, talk about a number of things. Maybe we can, son, I'd have to redo my whole cosmological construct, I guess, in my mind to work that one out. But I'd be interested to hear your theory on that, but no, I don't. Honestly, when I listen, if you listen to that debate of Bart Cybrell with that other Apollo astronaut, it was a first-class butt kicking of the highest order.
That was painful.
It was. Now the devotees are going to hear this, and they're just going to believe anything this astronaut said because he said it. Okay. But when you look at the evidence out there, man, Bart cooked, fried, and baked this guy. But anyway, with Whitey on the moon, I won't get sidetracked with that, but I think the point is well made. Yeah, we're worried about all this other stuff. We got people on won't even worry about that. I guess we got money to go to war, I guess, in Venezuela. And, we can't seem to keep grandma out of a nursing home. How about that?
With all this oil we're stealing, do you think we'll get lower gas prices at all?
Well, it's not just that. I mean, it's like Gerald Celente says, do you think we would be invading these countries if their number one export was broccoli? Yeah. Absolutely not. No, I mean, this is everything we've done so far. This is just downright piracy. We're sitting here. There's no declaration of war. And Thomas Massie is the only person. Folks, Thomas Massie is the only person in all of Congress that isn't bought and paid for. 535 members, and only one is not bought and paid for. What does that tell you? This is why I'm telling you, get your house in order. When all else fails, and this is another Gerald Celente quote, well, I'll use a couple of them. He said, when all else fails, they take you to war. And he calls it Gerald Celente's 3Gs, GC's 3Gs, gold, guns, and a getaway plan. Folks, I'm not trying to be all gloom and doom here, but seriously, nobody else is going to tell you. And a lot of other people out there, other YouTubers I've talked to that, understand these things, they're never going to tell you publicly out here, but I know they know about it. I know about it. And a number of others know about it. So, better get your house in order because the last ones that are ever going to tell you are the prostitutes. All right, my Chronic Silver, 10% off with promo code PERMA, folks. I'm using this stuff every day for a couple of ailments, and couldn't be more happy with it. So go check them out, my Chronic Silver. It's better than the garden variety colloidal stuff for a whole variety of reasons, and it keeps forever in the day. So I ordered like 3 more bottles of it. Yeah, I think I ordered 3 more bottles of it. And I ordered some more of that nose spray because whenever I got to go into Asheville and I know I'm going to be around some of these germy SOBs, you better believe I'm going to take some of that stuff. So I'm making sure I'm squared away on that. My Chronic Silver, go there, check them out, 10% off with promo code PERMA. So let's get down to brass tacks here. What happens when you stop fighting nature and start working with it? All right, son, I'll kick this one off. I guess we came up with 5 apiece. Hopefully we don't overlap, but if we do, it do what it do, in the words of a ghetto philosopher.
I got a couple extras just in case we do.
Yeah, I do too. So right off the bat, when you stop working against nature and start working with it.
Hold on, Dad. You just said you're going to kick it off to me, and then you started talking.
No, I was going to kick it off.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, no matter.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You already started.
All right. Well, or maybe I'm just misunderstanding myself. All right. So look, the easiest one right off the bat, y'all, workload drops dramatically. I mean, systems begin doing the work instead of you doing the work. That's why we're talking about, you've heard, I've used the name before. He runs the Chromatterhof over there, Sepp Holzer. Some weirdo was on his property or he was doing a class. I can't remember which. And she's over here like saying, oh, those chickens, you're treating them like slaves. William once encountered some stuff like that.
Yep.
That looks a lot like slavery. He says, okay, whatever the animals don't do, you got to do. So get out there and do it, slave. And that's exactly what it gets down to. So the workload drops dramatically. And I know I'm speaking wide. It's in a wide realm here. But it does if you do it in accordance with nature. Now, you go out there and put a bunch of cows in an open field and do what 99% of farmers out there do in America. Yeah, you're going to wreck everything. And that's how they think they ought to do it. But they're not doing it in accordance with nature. I've said it before, homesteaders can be the best thing that ever happened to the landscape. But in my experience, probably 8 out of 10 times, they're the worst thing that's ever happened. For real. And I don't know how to church it up. I don't know how to say it better. There's ways to improve it out there, but everybody wants to ready, fire, aim instead of saying, do I have the wherewithal to be able to do this? And they don't. But anyway, workload drops dramatically. That's my number one.
So working with nature also means like you inherently stop planting monocrops and you start working with more diversity. Now, keep in mind it's diversity to achieve harmony, not diversity just willy-nilly for the sake of diversity. And then once you hit the diversity, then you realize like you have increased yields. You have, again, less work on your part. You also have a more resilient system. So we've used this example before, but if I convert if I compare an orchard, just a peach orchard, the only thing they do is grow one type of peach, and I compare it to a permaculture orchard, which has a diversity of species, I don't really care if that peach harvest goes bad that particular year because I have 9 other species that are also going to, fill that gap. They're going to provide food for me. So diversity, mimicking nature and working with nature and trying to work a diversity into your landscape is going to give you a much more resilient landscape. Nowhere in nature do you see just one type of anything. And depending on the climate determines how large of a monocrop you can maintain without having some side effects from it. But nowhere in nature do you see just one of anything. Anytime you do see just one of anything, look a little bit closer and you realize there's some weeds growing around this tree, or there's just diversity in biology, things like that. So keep in mind diversity with the goal of achieving harmony. That's what you should be shooting for.
Absolutely. Yeah, inputs shrink. And I'm also kind of leaning some of this back to what I was saying a moment ago. Look, we are at a time where inflation is through the roof, despite Trump's speech last night where he said, no, inflation's excellent. Everybody's doing good. Everybody's got a chicken in every pot, bold-faced lies out there. Well, those inputs that you have for your home, your farm, your homestead, whatever you choose to call it, think about it. You do the right thing and you're putting that organic matter down in the soil, that's less water. If you're using fertilizer, the closer you get back to using nature, let's say you're using compost extract now, well, that's less cost than fertilizer. So you're spending less money on water, less on fertilizer, and then also your feed costs. Okay, so you may think, okay, well, a chicken derives about 10% of its diet. Well, Cornish crosses, let's say, they derive 10% of their diet from the landscape, okay? 10%. Other breeds are going to derive considerably more. They're not the best foragers in the world, okay? But a turkey will derive about 50% of its diet from the landscape. Well, and if I use them and I run them in accordance to the carrying capacity that I'm able to do on my property, wow, that's something else altogether. So I've saved even more money. And now all of a sudden, your fuel needs, if maybe you're thinking, do I really need that tractor to do this? Or maybe I go from that system into a system where it's animal-based entirely, where maybe it makes more sense. Because up here, a tractor doesn't make much sense where I live. So everything is not going to be tractor-based. But you're going to realize that, your fuel needs, every other thing, because it's going to require, to a certain extent, even less management. But I'm just giving you the high points here.
Kind of piggybacking off that, the next point I had was the efficiency on your property is going to increase. So instead of having to either fight nature, which is going to require energy, time, and money, you could work with it, which is going to be more efficient. But in doing that, nature is going to help you even more. And then things that you had to manage before, you can manage less and less with less time, effort, and money. So you're going to have an overall more efficient system if you work with nature. Because think of it like this. Let's say I have a fence line, right? I could spend a dedicated amount of time per year keeping that fence line clean. Or I could use the natural approach and either plant that fence line with something that would do well on a fence line. Like it could be fruit trees. If you have a strong enough fence, you could do grapevines. You could do whatever you wanted to. I could plant that. And then my management of that fence line goes away. Or I could graze animals along that fence line, which they would naturally do anyway, because animals love edges. It's an accumulation of energy. And then my management for direct fence line management goes away. Just by working with nature, you can eliminate certain yearly tasks that you would otherwise have to do. So on to you, Dad.
Yeah, resilience increases, okay? All these things we talked a moment ago about the floods that are happening up there in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, good night, man. When you work closer to nature and do things in accordance to nature, you're gonna realize that droughts are less impactful. Maybe floods a little less so, unless they pull the crap like they did here. There are going to be situations where they hit you so hard, and I'm talking about, man-made kind of stuff, that no matter how much planning you do, you're still going to have problems. But it does hit a little bit softer if you set these things up in accordance to what your property is telling you. Don't put, maybe you shouldn't put a pond on a spur. Okay, maybe you want to put it in a draw on the side of your hill. You want to be thinking about those things, and you want to be thinking about these high events. But anyway, your resiliency increases in so many ways, and it also goes back to what William said. So for every cultivar, let's say it's a peach. Okay, we got early, mid, and late of every kind of cultivar. Early apples, early mid apples, late apples. So if a late frost comes around, you're not completely wiped out like a whole lot of these orchards down there in Hendersonville, which is Big Apple Town, where I'm located. A late frost comes in, they lose the entire kit and caboodle out there because they don't have any diversity and they don't have other things. I mean, it would be a cinch to be able to change this thing. Well, it wouldn't be a cinch, but it could be done. But this goes back to the same resiliency I'm talking about. So instead of just having one cultivar, plant early, mid, and late of everything, if you can possibly do it, because it's going to add to that resiliency.
The natural diversity is going to appear and relocate to your particular property. So the example being Jeff Lawton's place. He has this section in the middle of his property. I think it's either 2 acres or 5 acres, one of the two, where he just let it go wild. And what happened was that all these different species of birds that aren't even supposed to exist in that part of Australia started showing up on his property. All these specific lizards started showing up on his property. And it gives him, like in the heart of his property, it gives him a very, very resilient, stable ecosystem that's benefiting the surrounding area. So everybody has terrain, everybody has slope, no matter how flat your property is. So the benefit of that is that everything downhill from that, every time there's torrential downpour, the water above that section will be arrested within that forest. And then the water that seeps out of that forest is all going to be, beneficial to the lower systems, the pasture systems that he had below that. He just stabilized that hillside. It was an area that he couldn't really do much with anyways. So he just let it go wild, fenced it off. And now he's also getting I think it's like a monthly or yearly check from the Australian government for planting, in quotes, like tens of thousands of trees when all he did was just let it go wild. So working with nature could potentially get you a government paycheck.
How about that? Well, I would have never thought that. Look, y'all, here's a big one here. When you work with nature instead of fighting against it, you're going to find out your soil regenerates itself through biology instead of using man-made chemicals. I mean, like I said, y'all, everything, I don't care. Pick what it is. I've spent a fair amount of time thinking about this. And I've asked myself, is there anything the powers that shouldn't be tell me that is correct, that is axiomatically correct? There's not one that I can think of. I mean, if somebody can find one, please tell me. Please tell me, and I will examine it. But my point being here is if you do the right things, once you put these systems in place, like William was talking about it in the last podcast. Okay, you go out in the forest in the middle of Texas. Well, nobody planted that. I mean, pick your place. It could be Texas, Oklahoma. I mean, it could be New York, whatever. Nobody planted that, and yet it thrives. Why? What's happening out there that I need to incorporate on my farm? What is going on that makes it so resilient that even droughts and all these other things, seem to not really affect that cottonwood tree in the middle of Texas? What's going on here that's making this thing? How can I go out there and observe what I see in nature and then take it back to what I have? Well, like I said, in these forests, in these environments, nobody's managing it, and it regenerates every single year. So that's what exactly can happen on your farm once you stop working against nature. Over to you.
disease and unplanned death will go way, way down, especially when you start working with natural systems. Everything's going to start balancing out. You're doing things in a natural method. So that way you're not like overpopulating anything. So that way disease doesn't skyrocket. You're not keeping anaerobic conditions, which causes disease. You're not overgrazing. You're not overdoing anything. You're not planning too much of one thing. So disease is all going to go down, which is also the side effect of disease is unplanned death. The only death that's going to happen on your property, for the most part, other than like predators, unplanned, like predators, things like that, is going to be what you control or what's already built into the natural cycle. So, just by working with nature, if disease is something that you're struggling with, disease, blight, anything like that, it's going to come into balance once you start working with natural systems, once you start working with nature as opposed to against it. Like most of the disease that people treat for when it comes to cattle and everything is all preventable just by mimicking nature. It's all preventable. Same thing with chickens, same thing with your garden. All these systems can prevent disease just by working with nature. Nature already knows how to deal with these certain diseases, so these certain blights, these certain pests, all that type of stuff. All you have to do is start working with nature. Like if you're spraying every year, all you're doing is building up that debt. Like if you're spraying for against weeds, all you're doing is building up a debt. Then it's gonna, like, the potential energy of Earth is going to far outweigh the potential energy that you have. It's a battle of energy. Like I can only spray for so long before it finally comes back with a vengeance. Before those briars or those thorns or whatever it may be comes back with a vengeance. Before like nothing else can even grow in that soil. These weeds all serve a purpose. Once we can identify what that purpose is, then we can facilitate that purpose and then get back to preferable species. So on to you, Dad.
Yeah, man, there's so much in there. I mean, man, you took my last one I was going to say there. So I'm going to go to my overflow list. And that's you stop managing chaos and you start stewarding abundance. That is a big one right there, man. You're constantly going to be going upstream. And by the way, Brenda, thanks for the additional $5. If you break bread, I won't fake dead. Anyway, yeah, you're going to stop managing chaos and start stewarding abundance in a way that, not saying that, I got to be careful how I say this because people fundamentally think that, oh man, I don't have to do anything. I'll just go out here and collect fruit. No, that's not how it works. Even in a food forest, you know, it's going to require some work from time to time. But when you realize how the good Lord put all of this stuff into play and how nature operates, instead of doing things that just don't work there, like maybe putting a cob oven in the middle of, the wetlands of North Carolina. Okay, it doesn't work very well there. You're not doing it in accordance. That doesn't work there, okay? A cob oven is not going to work outside in the middle of Western North Carolina. Not without, having other provisions in place. But you stop managing the chaos because, like William said, you're building up a debt. This is a chaos that is going to come home to roost in one way or another. If you don't work with nature, one of the biggest things you're going to lose is soil. Most people don't realize our number one export in this country, besides pornography, is soil. It's going down to Mississippi. I mean, when Lewis and Clark came across this country, man, there was so much topsoil, they couldn't even believe it. In some places, they couldn't even find how deep, and now it's all but gone. But it doesn't have to be. We know exactly what we need to do to make it right. But we don't, because we keep staying on to this system that is absolutely broken. I've said that quote a million times, but does it seem a good measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society? No, folks, it's not. This is exactly why I'm telling everybody. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I do. I do the very opposite of what every MD tells me to do. I'm doing the very opposite. And I'm talking about very collectivized people. Anything the media is telling me to do, I'm doing the polar opposite. Anything they tell me to do. I mean, for crying out loud, there's a doctor out there, and son, I don't mean to go so far afield, but I got to say this because it's kind of hitting on something we talked about earlier, where this same doctor who's got, massive health crises of his own, telling you to wear sunglasses outside, which is absolute insanity, knowing what I know now. Put on sunscreen. Folks, I'm going to tell you something. The only time I've ever been sunburned in my life, and I didn't realize this till years later when I was up in Canada, and I was a very young man at the time. We were playing baseball. I was in the Army. I was up there getting my Canadian jump wings. And I remember being in Petawawa, Canada, and I'm in Canada, and I got sunburned in Canada. You want to know why I didn't figure this out till all these years later, son? You know why? Because I was wearing sunglasses. Yeah. Never been sunburned in my life. And that was the only time I ever had because I've been wearing sunglasses.
On that note, go ahead.
So the bottom line is I told this long story just to come back full circle with this, is that when you start working in accordance to what nature has to teach you, you're going to find out that you get 10 steps right back to you. Bottom line.
On that note, Dad, that year that I was a lifeguard, I didn't get burned once, and I was the only one out there not wearing sunglasses. I've always hated glasses. Like, I'm always aware that it's on the bridge of my nose, no matter what kind of glasses they are. But I was a lifeguard in Kansas for however many months, never got sunburned, and I never wore sunglasses. So that never clicked until you just told that story. But my last point was, oh crap, where did it go? Yeah, you can start appreciating your systems and appreciating your farm and your homestead, as opposed to constantly chasing problems. Like, there are so many people, and Dad, you know them. There's so many people in the homestead space that if you were to observe them from the outside, you wouldn't think that they enjoy their systems. You wouldn't think that they enjoy this lifestyle, and it's because they're fighting nature, and then they constantly are chasing problems. They're constantly fixing problems on their homestead, as opposed to enjoying this. I say this all the time on consultations and on YouTube and all that type of stuff. If you're killing yourself to produce all your own food or produce food, then you're missing something. You're doing something wrong. This shouldn't be like, you shouldn't be like trading years of your life in exchange for clean food. You don't have to do that. Something's wrong with the system. Either you're fighting nature, you have inefficient design, whatever it may be. That's not the point of this. We all are doing this so we can have a better quality of life. So working with nature gives you the ability to appreciate everything that's installed, or the installation process, and the food that you're producing, or the systems that you're producing, as opposed to just begrudgingly doing everything because now you're in too deep. You didn't do anything efficiently. You're fighting nature, and you're constantly chasing problems.
Yeah, there's so many things out there. I mean, man, I got a lot more on this list because I wasn't sure how many you were going to come up with. And it's like, we don't compare notes before this program, y'all. We just kind of do it as we go. And there's just so much more out there. But one of the biggest things, the biggest takeaways, if I had to just say one thing, that good night, folks. If you put in a garden, I would rather let that garden die than put 7 dust out there. Yeah. Okay. Let's say it's the first time you hit this place, and let's say the bugs are wiping you out. You got a bunch of beetles out there just working it over. Okay. Well, it's an open indication that your soil ain't right. Okay. Work on it. Get it right. I mean, there's things out there like soil saviors that can help speed it up a little bit, but we do encourage that you make your own compost. You're going to have losses. Okay. Let's say it didn't wipe out everything. Well, what are the seeds that did well? Okay, take those guys and then replant them next year. There's so many different ways, where I think all of us, and folks, I find myself still doing it from time to time, because you're raised in a Western culture, which means you were raised in a reductionistic culture, meaning that, oh, we got this problem. Oh, you got high blood pressure. Here, take this pill. Well, can we find out what the problem is? No, just take this pill. That's what the MDs are going to tell you. Or that's exactly the approach we take to everything in our lives in a Western culture for the most part. And I still, despite the fact that I work on it more than anybody I know, I still have to fight that hard programming to not do the reductionistic method and say, wait, what is the bigger problem here? There's a bigger problem that I'm not seeing. Let's get to the core of it. Remember, the problem is a solution. You don't have a grasshopper problem. You got a lack of turkey problem. Grasshoppers are there, put turkeys on top of it. You're going to fatten up the turkeys. That's the way we got to start looking at everything. Anything else to add, son?
Yeah, real quick. Bless360 said, maybe you can show us which naturally occurring superfoods that would otherwise be considered weeds. I can't remember the name, purse something. You're talking about purslane, or depending on where you are, Pussley. I prefer the name Purslane. But okay, so this is super simple. Just remember this: the food that is growing closest to you, that is grown clean, like the cleanest way possible, is going to be your superfood. So if you're living in Florida, the superfood that you have accessible to you is not going to be the same superfood. It's not going to have the same benefits to me. So a lot of people, and I remember Eric talking about this a while back. I think it was when he was visiting in North Carolina. Everybody's worried about like this superfood that comes from like the other side of the United States or even the other side of the world. That's not the best food for you. The best food for you is grown in your same environment. That's going to be your specific superfood. So focus on that, and then it's really kind of hard to go wrong once you get that squared away.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out, son. That was also another thing I learned from Dr. Cruz is that let's say you got beef that's raised. I live here in Western North Carolina. Okay, I got beef that's marginally raised in North Carolina, and he made I mean, it's a fantastic discussion that he had about it. So let's say, which one do you think is better for me? Beef that's raised conventionally in North Carolina, or beef that was raised better than organic from Australia? Which one do you think would be better for me?
Knowing what I know now, I would say the one in North Carolina, and it's the same, analogy as the microbes. If I take microbes from Alaska from Perfect Compost and I apply them to Texas, they're going to die that same day.
Exactly. So that's exactly the point here. But it's also, I mean, this is a lot of technical stuff I'm not going to get into right now, but in terms of your electron spin, based on where you are, basically, it has a barcode that is made for your body when you're working within that zip code. And that's exactly what it goes to. Like you said, the superfood, the turmeric that was raised in India, is it going to be as good as the stuff I raised in my own garden? Absolutely not. So you want to make sure that this is why I'm doing the very best I can to eat as local as possible. And I mean, everything as local as possible, all the way down to the fats, all of it. I'm doing the best I can to try to eat as local as possible, because I'm trying to find ways to mitigate all this damage you're doing from us. And it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's coming from the sky. It's coming from these lights. It's coming from the EMFs. It's coming from all these different things. And I'm trying to take every little, like Greg Judy often calls, the unfair advantages, and try to put them in my favor. If I can add these guys up and do the best I can. And folks, that's all we can do. I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. Man, it's a real joy to be able to hang out with you all. And just a little programming note once again. And Brenda, thanks again for the money. A few more quarters for us to, thank you so much. Just a little programming note, y'all. We'll be on the Permaculture Pimpcast YouTube channel, along with Permapastures Farm. Shoot, I'm getting confused here, man.
It'll be on the Permaculture Pimpcast YouTube channel and the Permapastures Farm Rumble channel and the Permaculture Consultant channel, and then on all audio platforms.
Yeah, so that's how we're going to have to do it, y'all. They're playing games in these things, and they don't want you to hear this information. They don't, I mean, a lot of stuff that we say, they just don't want you to hear it. And we're going to do everything we can to try to get it out there. So, man, it is such a joy to be able to hang out with y'all. Love and blessings to each and every one of you. Until next time, stay alert.
Stay alive.
Nature, the knowledge ring with roots that run deep, wisdom from soil, permaculture dream. Let the ideas unfold. I'm grooving with the truth. Feeling nature's food. Who's got the answers? All we need to do. Listen to the earth, they got us through. Let's see the change. Watch the world spin. From the smallest sprout to the harmony begin. In the cycle of life, where the magic's alive. To the